For Senate President Dominick Ruggerio turned heads this week in an interview with Globe, Rhode Island, when he hinted that he might be having a change of heart when it comes to a ban on so-called assault-style firearms. Dan McGowan was in the room for that conversation. Dan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
So, you're too much. So let's start here. Remind us and the folks at home, where did the Senate President previously stand?
Traditionally, the Senate President has been, he's a Democrat, but he has been kind of the firewall when it comes to assault weapons ban. He has been, he's an A rating from the NRA, although that has changed in recent years. But generally speaking, he's been kind of the reason why it doesn't pass. He's always been the person who said no, even when the House wants it, or even when the majority of his members want it. He's always been kind of the resistance.
And this has been sort of an annual effort to get this across the finish line.
Oh, for years. I mean, if you go back just, six, 7 years ago, Governor Raimondo at the time had a big task force, had a bunch of recommendations, and this is the last one on those recommendations. Everything else, safe storage, high capacity magazines, all those things have passed. Assault weapons ban is kind of the last big ticket item.
So, as I mentioned, he sat down with you for a conversation about this. What did he say, and what do you think has changed?
Well, so he didn't come right out and say, I'm for it. He isn't suddenly Mike Bloomberg and leading the effort to ban assault weapons, but he expressed an openness to it. He said his former position, which was that he thought there should be a federal ban on, so nationally, do it nationally. He said he called that my former position. So he expressed an openness. Remember, Governor McKee has already said it's going to be in my budget this year, and that's a big factor because what you don't want to what can happen is Governor McKee proposes the budget in January. All of us go to Senate President Ruggerio and say, is it dead on arrival if there's a gun, a gun bill in it? So he's sort of moving first to say, I'm open to this.
So that's probably a large factor in Ruggerio's thinking, but we also know, it's no secret, that he's been facing some health challenges. Yes. Do you think that's playing a role here as well?
I do. I think whenever we do these legislative, end-of-year previews, remember, these guys are smart, the politicians, they know they want to get a headline, they want to get, their point across, whatever the issue is. And I think the elephant in the room the last couple of months has been Dominick Ruggerio's health. And so in some ways, getting the gun, assault weapons ban story out there kind of takes away from the heat that he has faced. So I think it was, to some degree, strategic.
Any other big headlines from that sit-down that you had with the Senate President?
One of the things is, he's still he still wants to see what's going to happen with the Superman building.
Sure,
you were talking about that yesterday with Speaker Shekarchi, and he's not quite, I think he suggested it was almost on its last legs. There's a lot of money out there that they still need. But remember, he's been maybe the biggest advocate of anybody in the legislature. So that's something that he's still kind of holding out hope for.
Always a lot to watch as we get started with the legislative session. Dan McGowan from Globe, Rhode Island, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.